Now let's add some rich text blocks to the cells in our new grid to illustrate the different functions it supports. Much like the grid, the Temaran rich text block can do everything the engine text block can do, but it does some things differently, and it can do some things that the base rich text block cannot. The biggest difference is how to reference content. In the engine version, to be able to use fonts and display images, they have to be added to a slate style. Slate styles are defined in C++ and lack good UMG support, so using them can be quite cumbersome. Using hyperlinks and creating in-text widgets have similar problems, in that the decorator types that enables the functionality take C++ delegates for defining callbacks. The Temaran rich text block uses something called asset repositories to solve these problems. Asset repositories are basically dictionaries supported by the widget types to let you easily assign content to text blocks. It has the added bonus of making it easy to create concise keys for referencing the content in text. Not having to reference content by their full content path is one advantage, and in addition to this, since the repositories keep references to all content in them, and they are in turn referenced by the text blocks themselves, we get around the problem of having to mark text block content for packaging. When you package a project, it will only package content that is directly or indirectly referenced by a content root. Using asset repositories solves this problem completely, making sure that you don't have to keep in mind creating additional content routes. Since adding a lot of objects to asset repositories can become extremely tedious, the repository comes with a tool to automatically add content from content browser folders. To be able to reference content from our new rich text block, we first need to add an asset repository to it. Let us simply use the default one found in the plugin for now. The four main decorator types, span, image, hyperlink, and widget, work just as in the engine version of the text block with some changes, like that they now use asset repositories instead of slate styles. Just to demonstrate this, let's create one of each type. First, let's make a normal text span and set a custom color and size. Now, let's also select a custom font. Notice how the font key is the same as the one defined in the asset repository where the actual font reference is stored. Images are also easy and straightforward. Yet again, you specify the asset repository key as source. You can still use the engine image element for loading slate images if you want to, but it uses a different decorator alias, called style image. Hyperlinks have an additional argument for hiding the underlining, but other than that they work the same as the engine version. Please note that the hyperlink decorator is only meant to be used for simple buttons and hyperlinks. If you want something fancier, with hover support for example, using a widget decorator is your best bet. To handle clicks on the hyperlinks, you can implement a blueprint event like this. Widget decorators simply instantiate a widget reference from the asset repository. If you want to do things with the widget from your parent widget, you can subscribe to a blueprint event which will give you a reference to the widget at creation. The Temaran rich text block also has a couple of features that are completely new. First off is the built-in text preprocessor. This lets you do things like text macros, that is, replacing some arbitrary text with other text. This is of course really useful if you have customizable character names in your game and want these to appear in dialogue. It is also great for implementing text styles by using shorthand for commonly used spans. This way, if you want to change the look of a style, you don't have to go through all of the text in your project. Having a more formal text style system in the future might be desirable, but this suffices for now. Another interesting thing we can do with the text preprocessor is conditional text. Whenever text in the block is regenerated, it will invoke blueprint events for each text conditional, letting you change, include, and exclude text dynamically depending on game state. This removes the need for a lot of text building blueprints, letting you put most of the logic directly in the text block. Please note that for conditionals to take effect, you need to refresh the text block using the force refresh function. This function can of course also be called from Blueprint. The text block also supports in-text button prompts that are generated directly from the game's input bindings. This ensures that they update properly even if the player rebinds them. While you can do this simply with text, it can also look a lot nicer if you use input glyphs instead. To make this easy and straightforward, the Temaran rich text block lets you reference an input binding by name using the input binding decorator, and the text block will expand this into device-appropriate input glyphs for you. This means that the glyph display will change to keyboard and mouse bindings if they were last used, and gamepad glyphs if a gamepad button was pushed last. Unfortunately, since UE4 cannot package the PS4 SDK with the engine, the system will not automatically detect PS4 controllers out of the box, and as such will not switch to the PS4 glyphs in that case. The glyphs for PS4 are included, however, so if you have another plugin that adds support for PS4 controllers or add it yourself, hooking it into the rich text block is extremely simple. Just have a look at the twidgetsplayercontroller.cpp file to see how it changes the device. To make it perform well as to make it easy to create and maintain the input glyphs, the text block also comes with a straightforward texture atlasing material function, as well as a tool for generating frame material instances from a master atlas material. You can access this tool via the toolbar of any material editor. Simply specify which region of the atlas you want to generate frames for and press the button.